Hello, you are with OnEBoard chat. This is session number 176. And this is my first OnEBoard chat live. We have transitioned from texting to live streaming. Our crew OnEBoard, Peggy and Bob and Molly, have already done their first session, so it's now my turn. And I have chosen to start with a Google Workspace subscription plans with a simple tip how to upgrade, downgrade, switch. And then we will continue talking in general about subscriptions. My tip is about individual presence. I've advocated for personal professional presence, and with the dynamics of the internet, whether you navigate a hobby or a family connections or workflows, I always call it workflow, since the environment has to be secure, data has to be managed as per the best practices. That's why in this poll we are not dealing with complex organizational tasks like migrating from one system to another. These are IT departments and data that need more attention. The poll is live on our community tab on OnEBoard channel. I'm here with Peggy. Hope somebody joins also live and adds some comments. All the time we are open to have this conversation. Also, the poll is live on LinkedIn, if you prefer to take it there, and on X or Twitter. Please take the poll. I'm curious if you change your subscriptions and how you proceed. So here you see the first slide is about opening. You open the admin console. You have to access the admin console of the workspace subscription you have and go to the billing section. From the billing section, it opens the subscription you have. When you click it, there's an active window about adding and upgrading. So it opens all those plans specific for your subscription. And it doesn't complete the process. That's why I wanted to start this conversation by the fact that you can just follow 1-2 steps and then read what it takes to which features you will lose. It has a specific list, so you know, and it doesn't complete the process. You can cancel it unless you finish it. But then you can see what to upgrade, what to choose, how to change your plan. There's a lot to take into consideration. We are in the autumn today. That's why everything is in orange. Check the links in the below the video for the help article about switching the Google Workspace subscriptions. And it has a very Google has finally understood that end users, employee or solopreneurs or practitioners or individuals, they all navigate their own space individually. And the help articles have very easy visual navigations. It doesn't, you don't need to be an IT in order to navigate and change your Google Workspace. And if you have plans to increase your assets, to have new projects, you can always check this section for upgrading. Has endless opportunities like add-ons that are Google's first offered. You can choose from them, and also third parties. And with Gemini, you can upgrade a lot, and you can also downgrade. What needs to be think over is about the annual and flexible plan. When you change the plan, it's for all your users, unless it's fundamental Google Workspace education. I'm an administrator of helping the university, and they have upgraded a small part, a small group of the educators with learning and teaching licenses. Otherwise, for other subscriptions, if we, for example, have 5 users and change the plan, upgrade it, it's for every one of them. But there's also the cloud identity opportunity that is free of charge. We are using this with OnEBoard. So this is the OnEBoard downgrade. We will check with Peggy afterwards to see why not save some money next year, and maybe buy some Gemini add-ons instead. Because when you have the whole plan, it has a lot of applications tied to the subscription. So it's important to be flexible with the choices. I personally have 3 accounts that have different purposes, and have moved to upgrade them. And now I'm thinking about downgrading and buying Gemini instead. That's what I'm thinking. So that's my simple tip. I don't know if there are any questions. This is a general conversation about subscriptions in general. So today, everyone is dealing with a lot of applications, subscribing, unsubscribing all the time. It's like a puzzle, very dynamic, depending on what you want to achieve. Well, that's what we are getting into the help centers. Sorry, Peggy. From the users, I see everyone is changing all the time.
So to me, I'll just note that for the folks watching, these are for Google Workspace plans for business where you have your own domain for the email and so forth, and not Google Workspace individual where it lets you use your Gmail account. So as someone who doesn't actually have a Google Workspace plan, but I answer questions, I'm wondering if there is a good way for people to look at all of the different features to pick the plan that is best for them. Because I know you say, oh, you can see which features you will lose, which features you will gain, but there's so many different plans now. Can you compare them side by side?
Yes, there's a link for comparison, and that's how I started with my first business plan. On the list of important features, I have chosen what is my priority, and that's how I selected which subscription to pick. With years, as I moved on, it turned out I have to upgrade. Maybe I have in future have to delete even. So the Google Workspace gives you a free trial. If you are an individual subscriber, you can also pick Google One. That is the most promoted now and has a lot of Gemini opportunities. And then check the lists. The help articles have very detailed lists of features, and you can try it. When you try the plan, you don't add the billing information, don't add your domain, and then if you don't add those, you are not charged. Hi, Bob. So you can just experiment for 2 weeks and cancel it and delete the account. It's absolutely a good practice to see for yourself, because it's sometimes difficult to read lists, and if you cannot bring it to life, this list, you see what features will I lose, is for OnEBoard Enterprise, and this is the list of the features we will lose if we downgrade. Sometimes when you go to Google Workspace standard, you cannot downgrade because it's the basic. The
So
start.
that's the lowest level you can be at?
Yes, but you can delete it, cancel and delete, download all data if you are by yourself, for example, and choose Google One if it's a better match for what you're achieving. There are a lot of startups that try the workspace with their teams. For some, it's excellent. For others, they are not satisfied. So I'm advocating for the trial, and you can experiment by yourself and then complete the process or cancel and delete.
So a question, Mark in the chat says he has a Google Workspace Individual. Have you tried the customizable Gmail layouts yet? Are customizable Gmail layouts also available for Workspace Enterprise accounts, and have you tried them? These, for people who don't know, this is basically when you're writing Gmail email, you can choose like a more professional looking layout. So if you want to, it has nice, you can have graphics and so forth, and you can do that to send it to a mailing list.
We issued a newsletter with this professional look. We have 5 editions on OnEBoard. I also use this Gmail feature for newsletters, and it works perfectly, very easy. I'll stop eventually presenting. So the last I want to say this one here, like the sun, because this is where the most innovation happens with the add-ons. That's the best for Workspace. You can add from the Google Marketplace. You can even create your own application and add it to the plan.
So does Google offer any sort of way for someone to go in and maybe answer some questions, and it will recommend a certain workspace level for people to subscribe? So I'm thinking if I had an idea of running a business and I wanted to have a Google Workspace, it would be great to be able to answer a few questions about my needs and then have Google recommend to me which edition would be most appropriate for me. Is there any option like that, or do you really have to go in and kind of figure it out for yourself?
When I started, I always talked to Google support, Google Workspace support, to ask questions, but you need to give the case, like what you are aiming at, and they will help. At this point, I think for my country, Google is directing mostly to partners, because they already have here 2 or 3 partners, companies, Google partners, and they can give away more time, because that's what they are working on the market, and that's what they're tasked to help everyone with their Google Workspace subscription. So I'm not completely sure how is this different from country to country geographically, but I'm sure that if you have a question, like clear question, you can either go to Google Workspace admin help forum, and my fellow product experts will always give some tips or resources, and that's.
So I have another question for you about
Thank you, Mark,
monthly
for the question.
versus annual plans. And if you are on an annual plan, I assume that means you pay less money, but you do it for a year. Can you upgrade when you're in the middle of the year for your annual plan, or do you have to wait until the renewal time to upgrade or downgrade?
Oh, this is a specific question. I always read them 2 or 3 times before taking action. So I have to read it again before answering, but I think you can upgrade at certain conditions anytime. It costs something. What's left, it will be charged to the new plan, I guess. And I was just reading before we started that it is specific for the annual plan. Otherwise, for the flexible plan, you can change to annual anytime. And with the flexible, you can change to annual at certain periods of the year. Also, the university, as I mentioned, they prefer to stay with a flexible plan, as I prefer to stay with our crew with flexible plan. But yes, you can save money with the annual plan. What I did with my business standard, because
it makes sense if you know you're going to be using it for at least a year, then why pay more money?
Definitely, yes. And Bob, what I wanted to ask you a general questions about subscriptions, because the Google Workspace subscriptions, they are more or less like any other marketing tool about products and applications. Like you are a subscriber of Adobe. What is their practice for subscribing and unsubscribing or upgrading, downgrading, switching? Are they flexible? You are with your, you have to leave and rejoin. Okay. Yeah.
So there's always interesting things happening. I was, oh, Bob's back.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yep.
That's great. Yeah, with Adobe, it's very spendy, but you know what? Since I'm using a camera a lot, yeah, their software products are important for me to edit or process my photos and organize. So I do an annual subscription, although I think you can do like a monthly one through Adobe also. And I think that you can be specific as to what applications you really want to subscribe to. So I think they have various levels. Like if you wanted to do Photoshop and Lightroom, I think there's you can do it that way. I've basically signed up for the entire spectrum, like Premiere Pro for video, After Effects for animating things. So it probably, the way I do it is probably not the smartest or as far as financially doing it, but since I'm retired and I have resources, I really kind of ignore the cost of doing business. And I don't know how many people listening are in that kind of category, but I'm thinking the same could be applied with Google Workspace, although I've never really subscribed to it, but I'm thinking strongly about Gemini. I'm having such a good time using a NotebookLM that, you know, I would like to, you know, at least say that, hey, it's a great product. And I would be willing to actually pay some money to maybe get additional features. So
Yeah.
I think that's what's really, really important. If you can drill down and figure out what exactly it is that you really want or need, I think that will really direct what you're going to do as far as subscriptions.
Absolutely, yes. I'm also very impressed and very satisfied while using the NotebookLM and recommend it. And it's now an additional service with a workspace. Therefore, it's easy to use and no additional cost.
No,
It's
that
That's good.
that is totally awesome. I don't know why Google did that, but boy, that's a thumbs up move.
because of your recommendation.
Oh,
You
no,
did
seriously.
you did a great tutorial.
Oh man, I gotta tell you, I am using it exclusively when I do YouTube postings for descriptions, and I'm going to start using it for metadata embedded into photos that go into my website to
Great.
actually generate that stuff. Like within a minute, it's crazy good. In fact, it's like within a minute, it generates something close to 3,000 words that are
Wow.
that is very accurate, and that's what you need when you're talking about science, or you're pulling information from websites that you're not plagiarizing. It's putting it into its own words that reflect the underlying science or statistics or numbers, and that is very, very important. So it's a big thumbs up, man. I'm really
Yeah,
impressed with that AI.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Another point I have to add to our chat today is about the platform as a standard. Because when you switch, upgrade or downgrade, it's still the same principle and concept you are used to. In practice, it's not new. You already know the admin, the features, and how Google is upgrading things. So it's intuitive to be flexible with a basic Google Workspace, like a standard for the
So
data. And a new thing, sorry, Peggy, because I wanted to emphasize this from the start. The new thing about this standard of work, Google Workspace, is the carbon footprint report. It gives you, for people like me and you, because I know you already a lot of time, since a long time, it's important to know how the whole product relates to our everyday concerns. And you can see from the report, they already switched with electricity company to give more data about the impact of the whole system we are using. Like I'm using something and I can tell I produced less than, like I produced 80 grams carbon dioxide. So I'm very happy to
interesting.
see this because I operate every day and it makes me like, oh, well, I'm super glad because it's optimized. And some companies have this like a requirement, like internet governance for institutions. They should look at those numbers, carbon dioxide, carbon footprint. That's why I wanted today to focus on the flexibility. If they need this report, okay, they can upgrade and subscribe and report to the public. We are, for example, we are the university that use less carbon than any other university. That's a good promotion.
So my question about Gemini, for Google Workspace. This is not included with the Google Workspace subscriptions, correct? You need to actually add on Gemini to your subscription, so it's an additional fee. Is that right?
Correct. That is right. Since the OnEBoard crew are a small group, if we add Gemini, it will work with our data inside the organization. That's why the bigger the organization is, the greater the importance of this artificial intelligence is for the efficiency, because you can imagine how scattered the whole process can be, and what immersive experience will change for them. It will be like discovering another planet so huge. While we are working with Google smart features since a long time, to us it's not that big difference, because we are already robotized.
I feel like it's really confusing the way Google is introducing all these different generative AI features, because some of them are essentially free and some of them are not. And so kind of knowing what you should have access to with different plans, I think, is kind of complicated. And you need to figure out which of these tools would we actually be using. And it's worth it to spend an extra $10 a month or whatever it is.
Well, you know, we first tested the Gemini immediately when Google released it, and we had it free, and we experimented, summarize this document, write for me everything, every feature we had, but we didn't pay for an add-on then, and we end up using NotebookLM. So even if we didn't aim to use Gemini, we ended up using it a lot. That's my focus on the standard. I'm not bothered about Google mixing things. That's their style of selling things. I don't think about this, because the standard is improving. Anyway, it will reach to each of the professional people and to each person online gradually. When they see it's already useful and doing the good job, it's accessible to all.
Right. And you know, the thought occurs to me that even Google might not know exactly how Gemini is going to be used ultimately. And that as they go along, they discover that it has capabilities that are much better here than here. And you know, I think, in fact, when I'm thinking about it, Gemini is much like the Adobe system. You know, when you think about, do I need software to organize my photos, or do I need software just to process my photos? And you are allowed to make that decision as long as you understand what it's actually doing. And I think that we're still wading through this as Google is fine-tuning what each of those little divisions of Gemini actually do. And whether you're going to get the big package, which is Gemini Omniscient, which knows everything, versus Gemini the artist, or Gemini the editor, or Gemini the writer, you know. And so I think that we just have to wait and see how this spills out. But the bottom line is that the capabilities that AI in the last couple months, in my mind, have gone through the roof. I don't even do Chat GPT, and not because I don't like it. It's just that, hey, I want to work with one thing at a time. And I was just fortunate in finding NotebookLM, because that was exactly what I was looking for.
We do.
You might laugh, but you know, I looked at Gemini. In fact, you can get Gemini for your email now, and you know, it can actually write responses for you know. So that's something that maybe I don't want so much, but that NotebookLM to take vast quantities of data and compile it and compress it into something that's readable and useful, and then cuts out all sorts of tedious work on my part, man, that is just a giant thumbs up.
You know, I'm eager to test the podcast feature of NotebookLM for replacing advertising, because I now ask the client to give me a text and sources, two links and a text. And when NotebookLM will return the briefing, I will ask to give it a try for voice conversation and see how it works. Because when you post it on social media, some people have this, they better understand when it's a conversation and voice, and will finally listen, because it turns out many times journalists are writing long articles, very knowledgeable, with proofs and facts, but nobody is understanding it, because partial part of the people, they only get it when they are listening to it.
So well, in fact, you're correct. In fact, you might almost have to offer, whatever product you create, one that can be read and one that can be listened to, and some podcasts don't even have a visual feature at all. It's just, you just listen like as if it was on the radio. So
for the workspace upgrade, downgrade, and standard switching, I wanted to replicate what Bob is saying about how massive a product becomes. For example, today I visited a construction of an institution, and all the workers there that were the building the construction come from different countries, from 5 different countries. And we asked the manager, how do you communicate? And he answered with Google Translate. So you can imagine how massive this application is, when even the workers, they can communicate with this application. That's my point about the standard of workspace. It has the security, the privacy, the carbon footprint, the add-ons, the applications. We can even create our own. And that's why I'm very glad it's the time for, when you have expertise, you can play with those tools. It's like a word to me.
I mean, I think it's great that what Google does with their products, but I mean, a bigger picture is, just imagine what that's doing to the world. It's crazy. It's crazy. It's good news that we don't hear about. The ability to communicate across, no matter where you live. You can talk to somebody in Egypt, and they can understand you, and you can understand them. So
and we will
very powerful.
Much more from the workspace data next time, because we are having 3 tips in 10 minutes with Jivko, and on the OnEBoard chat we are having only a poll. So for next Sunday, that's our program. We are live with our podcast and having a special guest to learn more.
I wanted to say thank you to everybody in the chat, and that we've been talking about NotebookLM. I posted a link to the tutorial on our site that Bob gave about using NotebookLM to create descriptions, and there's an example there. So be sure to check that out. It will also be in the video description.
Yes, I'm doing it all the time for our descriptions of the videos. Okay, thank you so much for being here, asking questions. It was nice chatting. Quite different than texting, but that's our wish, to move away from texting on Twitter. And we will be here with OnEBoard chat After Peggy will do the recap for the September episodes we had, and we continue with the October program. So at the same time every Sunday. Thank you for joining.
All right.
Thank you,
well,
everyone.
thank you. Have a great day.